little sick, so bear with me. In case you hear me doing a lot of sniffing or coughing, please excuse me ahead of time. I'm a little sick. I just like not so much responding to the people who comment and name call me and tag me in posts, calling me names and insults and all this. All that's fine, and I don't need to respond to it, but what I like to do, because we are all one, and what is being said about me is relevant to me because this is what's coming out of collective consciousness, which is myself. So the people who are bashing me or misunderstanding me, I don't wish to really respond to them, but more trying to help them. Because I was once where they were at. I was once calling other people names and doing these things because I simply was playing the game with awakening, and I was frustrated most with myself because I couldn't get to the answer I was trying, and so instead I was asking other people for proof, and when they couldn't provide it or they disagreed with my beliefs, I would name call them, I would attack them. But all this is our ego persisting in our illusions, our ego continuously playing the game because we are still identifying as the Alice. So I have a warning label on this video. If you are sensitive toward consciousness or topics of God or these things, please exit the video. But I'm going to be talking about something that flat earthers are absolutely terrified of, including myself. I speak about myself in all of this because this is all previously me. I used to hate and be terrified, absolutely horrified by the idea of evolution. Because for me, what it told me was, I was still identifying as this body. I am Tyler, I am this being and nothing else. There is an external creator and I must find it. So my idea of evolution is, I'm just this person here, and when I die, there is nothing after this. I will evolve into something else. I hated that because this is who I am right here. I was clinging on to my ego, the one I see in the mirror, which is what a lot of people who are terrified of evolution are doing. And again, this is not anyone's fault. We're all in our own stages, our own places of awakening, and when the time is right, they will find people like me who are speaking about these things that can connect mental dots to them. And that's why I simply do what I do. I'm trying to help the collective consciousness because we are all one. This is what I just had a conversation with about someone yesterday. You reading about Nikola Tesla, Walter Russell, Manly P. Hall, any great name you can think of, you are reading about yourself. You were, I was, you were, I was, all of us were. You were Nikola Tesla. I was Nikola Tesla. You were Walter Russell. I was Walter Russell. This is all us. We are all one being. You reading about historians, about the ancient lives, is you reading about yourself previously. You have such interest to read and hear what these men have to say or what these people have to say because you wish to get back to who you were. You're trying to figure out who you are. And this is why I tell people it's not the shape of the earth that is relevant at all. It's what we are identifying as, and we are only identifying as the below, keeping us in the lower states of consciousness. So when you identify as just the below, the micro, the body, you are stuck in a lower consciousness. You are stuck playing the game of poor me. I'm not the powerful almighty. I'm not the I am. Because remember, you only have conception of a God, of a power, of anything at all because your very consciousness alone. If you did not have consciousness, these concepts would be nothing. They wouldn't be even a concept. So this is the only way to be self-aware. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to play a 5-minute video from Alan Watts for everyone. I'm going to read about 6 pages from my book that I'm working on. I've read a few pages from this book about a year and a half ago, but Facebook deleted my live video with that very reading, which was at 45,000 views. That was my highest viewed live video, and it's now deleted, gone. So I'm going to read a few pages from my book. It's called The Prolonging Inevitability of One. because it's something we prolong, we put off with ourselves. It's easy, I say this all the time, it's very easy to make fun of, to mock, to shame, and to laugh at people like me during the daytime when you're with your friends. But what I say is not going to hit you in the heart until you are alone, until you sit in your room at night and try and go to bed. That's when what I say is going to come to you, because that's when there is nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, nowhere to put off yourself. In the back of your mind, you already know. So what I do is try and lead you back to that place. And your ego challenges this because it's your higher or your lower self saying, no, I want to keep playing the game. I want to keep persisting in my illusions. So no, you are satanic. You're evil. I don't want that answer. I don't want it. Because you want to keep persisting. But meanwhile, your higher conscious self that's pushing you into these conspiracies, that's pushing you into challenging your reality, that's pushing you into reading books, that's pushing you into studying the universe, this is your higher self trying to have you drop the ego to connect yourself back to source, which is singularity, which is one. The fact that we are all one, and this is something we prolong with ourselves. This is something that causes the ego, the human body, the subject, to become terrified of death, because we are associating as the victim, as the body, the finite. So I just want to show this real quick, and then I'll play this video from Alan Watts. But this is the actuality of it. That everything is converging and diverging from one singularity, one point, in and out. So the creating universe appears from the one and disappears into the one. And this is, again, this is a part of evolution. This is a part of what most people are terrified, because, again, we are clinging to the ego, clinging to the body. And not all people are ready to stop this game of persistent illusion. Not all people need to know this information. But for the people who do, this is why there are people such as Morpheus in the world to give these people this information, to drop the red pill on them when they are ready. Because when it all hits you and you realize you're not the body, it's bittersweet. But you finally feel like you are Alice falling down that hole because you just finally lost the idea you had of yourself. And like I said, it is bittersweet. You will cry. You will cry. It's an emotional experience. This is a transformation within yourself. And that's why I tell people, this is not a battle of the egos or of who's right. This is not a search for proof from somebody else. This is your journey. This is your purpose, your being. This is your personal journey to self-discovery, not for anybody else to influence you and provide you with proof for anything. Not saying that help isn't needed. But this is your journey. If something doesn't resonate with you that someone says, then don't believe it. Don't let anyone tell you different. Truth is literally a perception, and that's what seeing into the way of Zen can show you. The path of Zen shows you there is no right path, because the two paths that divide lead back to the same place of one, because we are all one. So the person walking the path toward religion is going to lead up and end up in the same path as the man walking into science. The two are one. The concepts are only in existence because of one collective consciousness. And it's the same with all opposites. So I'm going to play this video for you from Alan Watts. And I'm sure some of you have already seen it, but just bear with me and stick around here, because this is a huge part of this information. And like I said, this is a bittersweet realization, but it's you coming to the realization that you have two identities. You are two things at one time, which is really one, like I said. But your brain is split into two hemispheres. You have two identities, yet you're only aware of one, which is the body, the smaller subject, the smaller being, the lower consciousness. So here, I'm going to play this.
In this universe, there is one great energy. And we, shall I say, bug ourselves by indulging in that illusion. Gee, supposing darkness did win. And so we're constantly trembling and thinking that it may, because after all, isn't it odd that anything exists? It's most peculiar. It requires effort, it requires energy, and it would be so much easier for there to have been nothing at all. When you wake up to this and realize that the more it changes, the more it's the same thing, as the French say, that you are really a playing of this one energy, and there is nothing else but that it is you, but that for you to be always you would be an insufferable bore. And therefore it is arranged that you stop being you after a while and then come back as someone else altogether. And you can't be anything else. So you are relieved of fundamental terror. That doesn't mean that you're always going to be a great hero, that you won't jump when you hear it bang, that you won't worry occasionally, that you won't lose your temper. It means, though, that fundamentally, deep down within you, you will be able to be human in the pains, difficulties, and struggles that naturally go with human existence. But to have no hang-up, that is to say, to be able to drift like a cloud and flow like water, seeing that all life is a magnificent illusion, a playing of energy, and there is absolutely nothing fundamentally to be afraid of. Fundamentally. You will be afraid on the surface. You will be afraid of putting your hand in the fire. You will be afraid of getting sick. But you will not be afraid of fear. Fear will pass over your mind like a black cloud will be reflected in the mirror.
The meaning of life is so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everyone rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. Alan Watts. That film, that 5-minute, 6-minute film, is probably one of the most powerful videos on YouTube, in my personal opinion, because it's 5-6 minutes, yet its message is beyond explosive. Every time I hear that, I get goosebumps. It's insane. The message is very blunt, very clear, and very to the point in such a short film. But that's the prolonging of ourselves that we're putting off. That's the realization that deep down subconsciously we know, but the conscious mind simply cannot accept it. We must create more fantasies, more illusions, more games to keep us persisting that we are just the body, that we are just this. Yeah, Jake, it's on my YouTube if you have my YouTube channel. It's called Red Pill Rabbit Hole, and if not, just type in Alan Watts, you're it. It's a 5-minute video. So I'm going to read a few pages from the book I'm working on. If this resonates with you, please feel free to share it with any of your friends. But again, just be mindful, because this information isn't for everyone. So, all right. Look down any vortex, and what you see is singularity. This inevitable fact is what we choose not to see by pretending we're not it. This reality is the most complex game of hide and seek, and it's one being played, and it's one being of energy playing this game with itself. Not his self, not herself, but itself. This energy or life force behind consciousness is what we're giving the name God. The deeper you stare at something, the more you realize that everything you're seeing and taking in is that in which you're trying to define. The analyzation and understanding of things is us being it and playing at this game as if we're not. And this is the very reason no man or woman can ever explain to you what consciousness is, because it is literally that which cannot be explained. This is the very nature of it, to experience, play with, pretend, and find ourselves through the journey of life. This fact is the great awakening so many people try to define and speak of. We think of existence only from the inside out because we're on the inside trying to find a way out. We're aware of our inevitable doom, that everything is in the process of dying every minute, and so we get scared and think back into death, because our finite being isn't aware of its existence outside the body, or ego. Our finite being gets frightened when asking why anything exists at all because we can't answer it. We can't understand why we're living to die because in the mind of the ego, death is the end. But the subconscious spirit knows otherwise, that death is not the end, but the playing of this on and off system of energy. Just as you can't have a baby without the joining of the two opposites, it takes these two opposites to remain in balance to make reality work. The yin and yang principle is the only way. Where you have light, you must have dark. Where you have space, you must have solid. Reaching the end of the rabbit hole is considered the breakthrough stage, meaning your conscious and subconscious, source, mind are now connected and aware of your two identities. You're now laughing with joy, for that aching in the back of your mind is gone, and realize it was you all along. It is you, always will be, and only can be you. This is the part of us that is infinite. The more you search, the more you ask, the more you wonder, the more you overthink the entire situation. What we do is invent our own elaborate system into tricking ourselves that we aren't it. We delay and prolong this inevitable fact because either we're not ready to be shown or haven't put yourself through enough mental tests yet. And I've said this before to someone as well. The voice in your head that tells you to stay away from Freemasonry, like studies or books, or to stay away from these certain books because they're considered evil. I said this a million times and I'll say it again. Knowledge books, symbolism, cannot be evil, for they have no intentions. Only through intent can something be good or evil, because that's intent is through making an act, a choice. So you can take the information and take it in and use it for good or use it for bad, just as you can do with anything. A gun can be used to protect or to kill. It's with anything. So that voice in our head that's telling us to stay away from this person or this information or that's your lower conscious mind keeping you in persistence with your own self, keeping you playing the game. And in respects, it could also be your higher consciousness keeping you in that state because it may feel you're not ready. You're simply not ready. So it's telling you, don't you dare look into this book. Don't you dare look into this. Because once you do look into these things, like once you do hear me speak and connect the conscious with the subconscious, you can't unhear it. You can't unknow it. So once your mental games or your illusions are blown out of the water, they're gone, because you now see through the illusions, you can't go back into Kansas. You're a long way from home now. You're going into Wonderland, because now you see that your reality is an illusion in itself. But you're only keeping the game going with yourself the whole time. Whether it be your lower conscious side that's telling you, no, don't look into that, or your higher conscious side that's telling you, no, don't look into that, or yes, look into this, study that. You're only guiding yourself into your own awakening. However, many of us don't realize that at the end of this rabbit hole is ourselves. We're expecting some great answer or some external source or some external thing, only to find that it's you. Only to find that you were researching all these conspiracies, you were researching the shape of the earth and your reality and everything under the sun, just because you were simply trying to find out who you were, who you are, not just in the body, but who you are identifying as. We don't like being in the body because we're aware that the body has to die, and that's why we're terrified of death. We are falling for the illusion. So a lot of us are trying to go back into the spiritual aspects. We want to be led back into one or be one with God, because we don't want to have to deal with death. We don't want to be associated with the body or death. But what we don't realize is we're not. And at the end of it, there ends up being no external creator but yourself. You realize that through your consciousness, there exists an idea of a creator alone. Without your consciousness being sparked and birthed, there is no conceptual idea of a creator, of a beginning, of an end, of a life, of a death, of a family, of loved ones, of anything. You have no concepts of these things. Because if all is one, all is everything, and all is no thing at one time, you are the very creator and the very destroyer. You are one. You are the life and death principle that keeps us going. And many don't realize why death is necessary, but it's when you see through the illusion that you realize death is necessary as a part to keep life in balance and keep life in check. It's something Thanos says and many people don't like, but the people who haven't opened the third eye yet will not understand this as clearly. But if life ceases to remain unchecked, life will cease to exist. And this is the very mindset of our government. And this is why I've said before, many people don't like hearing it, but do we want comforting truths, or do we want the harsh reality in truth? But this is the idea of our governments. Truth is just a perception. In my perception of truth, the government is murdering people. In the perception of the governments, they're murdering people for the good of us. They have good intentions while we're calling them bad and evil. And I'm not saying they're good, but I'm saying you see the power of perception, that there is no absolute truth, that there is no one or the other. The two are really one, but it's just a matter of perception at the end. They justify their killing just as Thanos from Avengers justifies his killing. If life ceases to remain unchecked, life will cease to exist. So they've taken on this role. that they must be under population control. They justify population control, creating these outbreaks, creating this genocide by keeping the systems in balance, is what their mindset is. They're doing it for us, in our opinion, in their opinion. And in our opinion, we're saying, no, we don't need that. We don't want it. All right. So back to here. What we do is invent our own elaborate system into tricking ourselves that we aren't it. We delay and prolong this inevitable fact because either we're not ready to be shown or haven't put yourself through enough mental tests yet. But eventually one day you will connect the mental dots you've noted and had your whole life. It will be in this moment of self-realization that you at last admit to yourself you're not who you are, who you thought you were. From there all else becomes clear, from the questions you hold to the very voice in your head. You are it. And that all this is a constant game of tag. Now you're it in this skin, now you're not. Birth, death. And this is the flow of the matrix. It is constant and will never give out. To infinity and beyond. You're either playing as the character in the skin or as the character beyond the skin, which is pure energy. And this is why when you find this out, people will gravitate and be drawn toward you. When you find this enlightenment within, you no longer search for it outside of yourself, but reflect it outside yourself for others. Just as this energy has two faces, it has two of everything else, which is the balance throughout reality, known as duality. Without one, the other isn't possible, which means the whole isn't possible. To get a full circle, you can't just have above. You need below as well. The other half to that makes up the whole as one. So just as you're subconsciously everything in one being, you're also consciously forgetting this through the mind of the conscious I am. You're both beings at the same time because they're both one. One is physical, the other is beyond that, but both are you. Just as you're the on or the off face to the system, you're the on face to the system. Life and death is you through your own energetic design. You are the God or light principle through conscious intent and manifestation, just as you are the beast or the dark principle through conscious intent and manifestation. That is why you have a conscience, and as I previously stated, this is the metaphoric battle between angels and demons. The dancing of these two energies back and forth. It's never all one or the other. Just as a movie shows you, the hero doesn't win the whole movie. There has to be a playing of both energies. There has to be a tragedy to realize delight, death to appreciate life. There has to be delight to realize tragedy. Oh, okay. Sorry. There has to be tragedy to realize delight, death to appreciate life, and hot to appreciate cold, and vice versa. There has to be delight to realize tragedy, life to appreciate death, and cold to appreciate hot. Either way, both are required to complete the whole picture. We don't appreciate death when we don't understand what it means to live. To live is what makes you embrace it all, even the human pain and tears that remind us we're born doomed and are beautiful as they come, for it makes the here and now, as a human being, accepted and seen through beauty because you no longer see through fear, but through wholeness. You see that the end is never the end, for you are that and will always be. In one form or another, all is you experiencing, talking, and playing with your own infinite being. All our conceptions as to who we are is just that and being it. Just as one could make an endless amount of shapes or patterns is the very evolution and constant changing of the universe. We often find ourselves with an overload of thoughts before we sleep. This is due to us associating sleep with death, and so all our greatest, deepest, and most hidden thoughts of the not knowing drives us into a domino of thoughts all collapsing in around us at once. It is during these moments before we sleep that all the thoughts come about because you are not being distracted or consumed by the material world. You're not at your job where your mind is busy with the nonsense there. You're not out with friends or on a phone or a TV or anything outside yourself which distracts you. And when you give yourself this time away, just as in the moments before you sleep, you realize your mind keeps leading back to itself. All these deep thoughts come into play because it is in the silent moments that we reflect on our life before bed, which, as I said, we associate with death. When you truly focus on these thoughts, you realize the inevitability you're prolonging with yourself. You're aware nothing is promised or forever, and so each time we sleep, we reflect on our thoughts of life, of existence, of where we go when we die, of who we are, of what life is, if heaven or hell is real, etc. These very thoughts are the very functions of being just that in which you're trying to define and answer with logic. Look up Michelangelo's famous painting of the creation of Adam. You'll notice God portrayed as the man in the middle on the right, while extending his finger out to Adam, who is on the left. Around God are all his angels, but even more strangely, you'll notice that God and all the angels are inside of something. This is where the answer is a dead giveaway. They're inside what one can clearly tell to be a human brain. It has the same shape and design of one. When you understand that you are it, this is more of a laugh to yourself as to how you never noticed this or put two and two together. God is none other than the life force of consciousness and death, and it's inside the mind because it is you through your conscious experience. This is why we're born with so many naturally drawn questions of our existence. We're simply trying to understand ourselves. The awareness of the splitting of these two identities become forgotten at death, and so it's arranged that you come back again, a different physical you, to understand and put all together again, but no matter what, the two are both you. Born finite in the skin, but are infinite through the spirit. Life force / life force, and this is what makes us infinite and one with all things. I won't read any more because I don't want to give away everything, but that's a book I'm working on called The Prolonging Inevitability of One, and it's just simply trying to show the person who's reading how since birth we've known we're not who we think we are. We're questioning our identity. We're questioning who or what we are. And by us questioning everything in life or in general, like what is this room made out of? What is this? What is that? You're studying yourself. Your birth having no conceptual knowledge, no previous memory, no anything, because you're coming back again in a new veil to experience again and question your own being. Studying everything around you, outside you, inside you. It's all you leading back to the same path of yourself. And that's the snake biting its own tail, the realization of self to infinity. You realize that it's you and always will be you. Always. And it can get scary for some people, and it can be humorous to others. But this is where the Alice in Wonderland movie comes in, how they talk about we're all mad here, because we technically all are fucking mad here. If you really wanted to be technical, if all is one, and I get asked this all the time, if all is one, then people have said to me, then I don't exist. The people who are telling me this, they're telling me, then you don't exist. I'm talking to myself. And I said, exactly right, you are. You're talking to yourself. Don't you feel crazy now? We're all schizophrenics. We're all talking to ourselves. We're all one collective consciousness. And that's why I say we're so eager to read books by historians. We're so eager to get in touch with his history because you're reading about yourself. You're reading about what you've previously done, your previous discoveries. You're trying to get back in touch with self. So you finding out all these discoveries, all these inventions, all these technologies is you getting in tune with yourself prior, which can help influence you now. And this is how we keep continuously advancing and advancing and advancing our civilizations. And in each century that goes by, we keep advancing this knowledge. I'm aware that much of it is lost. And it always will be. There's always going to be knowledge. But that's, again, the birthing and death. So the knowledge that's lost and gone forever gets recycled and pushed back out It'll always return. So everything that's lost gets returned and found again. It's just a repeating cycle, and we're all one. And so, yeah, in respects, I could say I am the only real one. Everyone, all of you are fake. All of you are a part of my memory. Or you guys could say the same thing. I'm the fake one. Everyone outside of you is fake, and you're the only real one because all is one. So if all is one, who am I talking to? And again, that's where some people can drive themselves crazy or have fun with it. Enjoy. But that's where Alice in Wonderland, she's talking about. She's in a world of her own. You are. You're in a world of your own. No one can influence or alter your universe, your reality, what you see. And that's why there are so many shapes and ideas of our earth and our universe, because we are just perceptions. And what the I am perceives is what is. If someone sees the world as flat, that perception is just as much flat as the perception seeing a ball. Neither are right because, again, Zen is the path of two. Or many. But they all lead back into the same thing, the same conclusion, the same one, the same energy, the same suchness. And so now I'm going to cover evolution. Because, again, this is something the Flat Earth community is probably most terrified of, and I've seen it, I've experienced it, I know it. Out of all the things that they dislike, I would have to say evolution is the one thing that they would bash or insult or laugh at and mock, because again, these are defense mechanisms. You can laugh and mock and be all cocky out in the open on Facebook, but it isn't until you go into your room at night with nobody else around to see you laughing or to see you making a joke of something that you're really terrified of and to actually have it process in your brain. You see, you can mock it, you can insult it, because that's your defense mechanism saying, I won't allow this thought to enter my brain. I won't even ponder the thought because I'm terrified of it. And so it's easy to mock, to shame, or to insult something that you don't understand rather than trying to see into it. But when you see into it, you realize, again, the ones who deny evolution are the ones denying their other identity. You are just living in the lower consciousness of the body, of the I am, or of the I am. However, you're not aware, excuse me, I told you I'm sick. However, you're not aware of your other identity, because remember, two halves make a whole. You have above and you have below, but you're only identifying as the below, keeping you in the lower consciousness. It also keeps you stuck playing the victim. So when things go wrong, you have an external person to blame. You have an external person to to be mad at. Instead of you realizing you have to manifest, you have to change, you have to create, because we don't want that responsibility. It's easy to just release our hopes and wishes and fears into the sky and have them disappear. That's very easy. And just hope something external of us saves us. Hope something external solves it all and works it all out. It's hard, however, for man to have to actually put forth the efforts, to actually have to strain his brain to actually get some answers or to get some results. Realizing we are responsible for our realities. We're not victims. We can play the victim, but it's just a role. It's just an act. It's not really what you are. And that's why when you die, what you're pretending to be dies. It goes away. And only those who identify and cling to their egos, which is the idea of them as just the body, will fight evolution, because you're fighting the fact that you are not the body. You have fallen in love with the one you see in the mirror, and this harsh pill is too much for you to swallow, so you will reject it, you will insult it, you will criticize it, you will slander it. However, like I said, before you put your head on that pillow when you go to sleep, that's when this is going to come into your brain. During the daytime and all this, it's great. You can laugh with your friends and make a joke out of it, but it's not when you're alone that this is going to enter your mind. And that's why I tell people, this is not for you to show out to your friends or to prove how smart you are, to boost your ego. This is a very sacred experience with yourself. This is a journey of self-discovery with yourself. It's meant to be held very sacredly, but it's not. It's being taken for a game. pretty much, with the internet and all this nowadays. All these different groups and interesting people coming about, right? But they're just getting lost in the illusion. And that's why I don't have hostility toward them. I was once them. And even me now in this perception, I'm not any better off. No one's better off than anyone. We're all just one expression. Right? But evolution is a certainty, and this is what religions fear beyond belief. Religions create boundaries and confinements and constrictions within the human mind, and they do reverse psychology on the brain. So they're going to shame all the answers that are going to liberate you from your ego, from your lower self, and make them feel evil, make you feel guilty for even considering it or looking into it, while also creating boundaries for you, telling you do not think outside of this hole. Do not look outside of it. Don't even investigate outside it. And this is because religions are simply terrified to see the evolution of man progress, to see the evolution of this knowledge, of this collective consciousness progress beyond their boundaries. I don't know if many people have seen, but for the first time in the United States this year, church organizations or church memberships are the lowest they've been in the history of the United States. And this is because this is what's being exposed now. It's long been exposed that religions are just businesses, tax-free businesses that keep you vulnerable, keep you stuck, and keep you coming back so you can keep paying them your money. But each time you go back, you're vulnerable, you're vulnerable, you're vulnerable. You're requiring an infrastructure and a person to help save you. This is not the purpose of self-discovery. You're being kept vulnerable, kept a sheep, or a sheep for slaughter, I should say, and you're paying your money to keep coming back and remain vulnerable. And this is what they're doing. It's been long exposed now. Religions not only have, I don't even want to get into the pedophilia and all the crap that comes with that, but that, it's a tax-free business, and again, it's using metaphors to keep you stuck. Only the few who can read between the lines are getting the messages, the encrypted messages through the Bible. Because the Bibles and these holy books, not just Christianity books, but all holy books, are speaking through encryption. And if you don't know what encryption means, Google the word encryption. All their messages are encrypted, meaning very select few people will get the message. That's why they're using metaphors. And that's why I've started this group, Order of the Black Wheel Matrix, because I'm trying to take these metaphors and use literal terms, visual proofs. And this is why I'm connecting the body to the outside, the source. The joining of the above and the below. The realization of the two being one. Operating on the same level of consciousness. But to deny evolution is you denying that all is one. That you are the creator, you are the God that you're looking for. That you're not the body. You're not the one that you fall in love with in the mirror. You're playing as this for a little while. But that's why this deteriorates, this rots, this dies. We're all in the process of death right now. And it's when we cling on to this that we become terrified with death. We become absolutely terrified because to us, this is the end. But it's just the end of this idea of our higher consciousness is idea of us in this body. So to use another example, the person who is unaware of all this information, listening to me now with interest, is the person that subconsciously knows they are me. We are all one. There's reason that we want to listen to certain people speak or to listen to certain people's books or words. And there's some people who can listen to someone and say, wow, I knew that, but I could never put it into words. He's expressing something I already knew, but I couldn't say. I couldn't put it into words. I couldn't express it, but I knew it. I've been told that a million times, that a lot of what I say is what people know, but they just cannot express. And this is the very thing of us being one. You know it because you know you are me. You know we are one. I'm expressing something you cannot express, but we are both connected. We are both one. So you already know. You've lived my life. You've been here. You've already been where I am, and vice versa. I've been where you are. We are all one. I've been where you are. You've been where I am. You're listening to me as an outsider, as someone who's not you. But someone who knows you're only listening with interest because you're listening to try and get back in touch with self, or to hear words of self more in depth, explained more for you, so maybe you can understand the self more. And it's the same with me. I listen to Alan Watts or to Terence McKenna or to people who speak. Sadhguru, he's another great one. He's from India. These are great speakers, and I listen to them because they help me get in touch with myself again. I'm aware that they are me, and I'm listening to them with interest because they are me, and they're expressing messages which I already know but cannot express myself. And like I said, it's the same with books, it's the same with videos, it's the same with anything. You want to read these things, you want to study these subjects, you want to get in touch with these people because they're helping you get back in touch with yourself. And it's not the self that you've identified with in the mirror. It's not the ego. I just wanted to make a short video today, briefly covering the third eye and evolution, because I woke up today with my name tagged and posts by a bunch of flat earthers, and I'm being made fun of and all this. And all I said to them was, make fun all you want, but thank you for your energy. I will take it and I will use it for the good of humanity. So keep on making fun of me and keep on giving me your energy. Because what you're doing to me in a negative light, I will take and absorb that energy and project it right back out for the good of humanity. So if you want to keep insulting me, making fun of me, slandering me, tagging my name, please feel free, because you're giving me power, energy. But I'm not going to take that and abuse it. I'll project it back to people for the good of humanity. So it's all love. It's all love. There's nothing that anyone can do to me, and vice versa. There's nothing anyone can do to you. You have the power the whole time. You don't have to emotionally be triggered by anyone. Awaken to your higher self. Cease to cling to the body. Then you'll realize, what am I defending? I'm not this. Make fun of me all you want. My nose is too big, my ears stick out too much, what? Make fun of anything you want. I'll make fun of myself right now. Nothing in life is serious at all. Nothing. Even Osho has said this. Your very existence is not that serious. Look at it. Look at you getting lost in your own game. Look at you persisting in your own illusions, keeping you from knowledge. That's what the ironic part is the same voice that's telling you to stay away from this knowledge is the same voice that could liberate you. It's the same voice that's telling you to stay away from this so you can stay in this space. Because the voice telling you to stay away from this knowledge here is the voice clinging to the body. The voice that denies evolution. The voice that denies we're all one. So you're going to keep creating evidences and support systems to keep defending your ego, to keep backing your ego and all your beliefs that keep you in this ego system. But it's not until, again, you can make fun of it all the time during the day, but at some point or another, you will have to face yourself. And it's not a laughing matter. It's not a joke. It can't be made fun of. You will have to face yourself. And that's why I tell people this is not a journey to be made fun of or to mock or to insult anyone. We're all on our very sacred and very important. No, not one is more important than the other. All just as equally important. On our own individual paths to self-discovery. In our own processes, in our own stages, in our own ways. But again, we're all looking to lead back to the same road. So just because someone thinks the earth is flat or round doesn't matter. We will be led to the same road. At the end of it all, you're me, I am you. Your perception is left, my perception is right. But we will meet one way or another. We will always meet at the end. And this is why I stress, it is not that important, it is not that serious. The power is within you the whole time. And this is what governments don't want you to realize. You can take the comforting lies or the harsh truth. But at the end of this red pill, when you take this red pill, you will finally understand the meaning of Alice falling through that hole. Because that's her saying goodbye to everything she thought she was. The falling of that hole is her leaving behind Kansas and going into Wonderland, but not just going into Wonderland, becoming a part of Wonderland, becoming the creator. And that's the best part of Alice in Wonderland, is you realize at the end of the movie, there was no White Rabbit at all. There was none of the realms, the rabbit hole, all of it was just her dream. It wasn't even real. There was no White Rabbit at all. But you can imagine the White Rabbit as our idea or conception of God. We're chasing this idea of God, which is us chasing our own tail, through this hole, through these realms, through these books, through these videos, frantically, only to wake up and realize and feel like that. Everything you thought you were has just been sucked from you, tumbling through the hole. And so I tell people all the time, do not take DMT or psilocybin or ayahuasca if you are not ready to experience your physical death. It's been said by many people that life and death is just an illusion, and many people can say these words but not have an idea, an actual idea of what they are saying. So when I say this, I mean it literal. So take this literal, not metaphorically. Take this literal. Do not take DMT, psilocybin, or ayahuasca, or LSD, any of these things, unless you are ready to physically die. And when I say that, I don't mean your heart stops. What I mean is, every single created idea you've come to identify as, including you in the mirror, is dead, killed. You are taken out of the body, shown yourself from above your body to show you this is not who you are. And that out-of-body experience is you experiencing your own death. You're seeing past the illusion of birth and death. And you're realizing that just as I am conscious in the body, I am conscious outside the body. There may be different rules, different concepts. For instance, outside the body, we're all one. So there is no family. There is no friends. There's no others. There's just you, the self. And that's why this is the journey of self-discovery. You're trying to discover yourself, the infinite self. You want to connect back with God, back with one. It's as easy as realizing you already are the one. You can be a product of one without being the one. And that's why I stress this right here. The creating universe appears from the one and disappears into the one. And again, that's something we deny. We deny with ourselves. But this here is a formula. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. And again, religions have to create boundaries and confinements on the mind of man because they are terrified to see us evolve. So if you told this to a Christian, as above, so below, they would be terrified of you. They would call you a Satanist or an evil person, even though you have said or you have done nothing intentionally to harm them. You have no intent of harming them. So just by saying some words, you can be evil. That alone is, again, boundaries, confinements. You can only label something evil because, again, they work in reverse psychology methods. Reverse psychology. If you look into this or study this formula or apply this formula to yourself, you will be cast away to hell. But what this is really saying is if you apply this, you'll be liberated from yourself. You'll unlock the lower consciousness or connect the lower consciousness with the higher consciousness. You'll become everything you've been searching for. And remember, we're all one. So the same religions and people telling you to stay away from this is you. That's the kicker. You're keeping yourself from your own self. You're prolonging your own awakening. The system's design, keeping you away from the answers and keeping you away from things like this, is your lower conscious self, keeping you in persistence with your ego. Keeping you stuck, keeping you playing the game. But remember, it's still you. That's why my book is called The Prolonging Inevitability of One. Because at the end of the day, you are the only one prolonging your own awakening. Whether it's internally, the voice inside of you telling you stay away from this, or externally, occults like Freemasonry, or religions, creating boundaries, or working in secrecy. They're all you. They're all you at the end of the day. Had it not been for them, for something being wrong in your reality, you would not have begun to question it. Everything is the way it should be for a reason. And so you would take the as above, so below, and you apply it to the man. You connect the man to his very universe. That's what this is. This is a formula. As above, so below. However, as I said, there's too many of us who are living in just the below. We're just identifying with the below, which is just this half. We're just this half, up here. We're the body. We're just the body, just the flesh. That's it. So this is what we start off as. But then when you take this, as above, so below, you apply it to yourself. You connect the micro being to the macro being. You get your whole picture. You're no longer identifying as the lower consciousness. You're no longer identifying as the victim. You're no longer stuck. You're no longer half. You're whole. You have your whole picture, the above and the below. As within, so without. The universe is now you. And this is how you properly begin to manifest and realize just how much power you actually have. And this is the true test of man. I just spoke with someone about this the other day. And they said, well, what's the point of doing good? What's the point of being good if there is no judger? If there is no one in the sky judging us? If we don't have to pay for anything? One of my answers is, your karma will always come back to you in some form or another. But beyond that, that very question alone is the very test of man. When I say man, I mean mankind. But it's in these moments when you find out there is nothing externally that can judge you, that can punish you. You can get away with murder. It's in these moments that this is the true testing of yourself. Are you going to remain that good-hearted person that was trying to awaken and expose the corruptness, or are you going to become a part of it? This is the true test. Are you going to stick with your heart or go into corruption? Do to others what you were once trying to expose. It's very easy to find this out and go to the dark side, to manipulate. Sure it is, because people let power corrupt the mind. And that's why I say, this here is the true testing of man. Very few will remain good. Very few will remain in the heart. Majority do go into the dark side. Why do you think there are cults and Freemason groups and other people who have dark and hidden agendas? Because they know this very information. They are God. They are the one. We are all one. There is nothing that can stop them. We can get away with murder. And that is the test. Are you really good? Or are you just pretending to be good because you think you're being watched and you're going to be judged? And again, your punishment of doing bad is you have to live with it. I can't say what the punishment will be after, or karma, or how you'll come back, or what. I cannot say, because I don't know, and I won't lie to you. But I can say one of your punishments here and now is you have to live with that on your conscience. Any bad you've done to others, or any intent you have of harming others, you have to live with. That's a punishment in itself. You have the burden now. You have the burden in your heart. Your heart is now cold. And the more wrong you do, the easier it gets. So many people have asked me, well, why do people go to the dark side? Corruption, the lust of power, the realization that they have all the power. And it's easy to abuse it. Easy. That is the true testing of man. Before you knew this, you wanted to fight this. You wanted to expose it. But now that you know it, are you going to stay on that path? Are you going to stay in the heart? Or are you going to abandon it? Begin chasing the material world. Begin chasing the finite illusions. I'm going to wrap up this video because I think I've covered everything. If anyone has any questions or needs more clarification, please feel free to reach out, message me anytime. For every 20 people I get making fun of me or insulting me, I get 5 to 10 people who are genuine and thankful and just loving. And for that alone, I'm appreciative. So, thank you to everyone who does follow me, to everyone who does watch and listen to me. I don't have all the answers. I'm just a humble guy on the internet here. A reflection of you, trying to simply connect dots. So, everyone have a good Sunday. Have a safe Sunday. Love to everybody. And like I said, if you have any questions, reach out. Check out our page, Order of the Black Wheel Matrix, Concave Earth, the Electric Universe, and Wheelwork. And if you have any other questions or you want more Concave Earth content, you can add my page or add my friend Gemini. Most people know who he is already. Gemini, I'm so sorry if I pronounce your last name wrong, but Gemini Banura. So excuse me if I pronounce your name wrong, but yeah, if you have any more questions or content you want to be seen or shown or whatever, you can add me and him. Thank you.